Most of us are rich with the things of society. What society has created in us and what we have created in ourselves are greed, envy, anger, hate, jealousy, anxiety, and with all these we are very rich. The various religions throughout the world have preached poverty. The monk assumes a robe, changes his name, shaves his head, enters a cell and takes a vow of poverty and chastity. In the East he has one loincloth, one robe, one meal a day, and we all respect such poverty. But those men who have assumed the robe of poverty are still inwardly, psychologically, rich with the things of society because they are still seeking position and prestige. They belong to this order or that order, this religion or that religion. They still live in the divisions of a culture, a tradition. That is not poverty. Poverty is to be completely free of society. Though one may have a few more clothes, a few more meals, good God, who cares? But unfortunately in most people there is this urge for exhibitionism. Poverty becomes a marvelously beautiful thing when the mind is free of society. One must become poor inwardly, for then there is no seeking, no asking, no desire, no nothing. It is only this inward poverty that can see the truth of a life in which there is no conflict at all. Such a life is a benediction not to be found in any church or any temple. How is it possible then to free ourselves from the psychological structure of society, which is to free ourselves from the essence of conflict? It is not difficult to trim and lop off certain branches of conflict, but we are asking ourselves whether it is possible to live in complete inward and therefore outward tranquility? Which does not mean that we shall vegetate or stagnate. On the contrary, we shall become dynamic, vital, full of energy. To understand and to be free of any problem we need a great deal of passionate and sustained energy, not only physical and intellectual energy but an energy that is not dependent on any motive, any psychological stimulus or drug. If we are dependent on any stimulus, that very stimulus makes the mind dull and insensitive. By taking some form of drug we may find enough energy temporarily to see things very clearly, but we revert to our former state and therefore become dependent on that drug more and more. So all stimulation, whether of the church or of alcohol or of drugs or of the written or spoken word, will inevitably bring about dependence, and that dependence prevents us from seeing clearly for ourselves and therefore from having vital energy. We all unfortunately depend psychologically on something. Why do we depend? Why is there this urge to depend? We are taking this journey together. You are not waiting for me to tell you the causes of your dependence. If we inquire together we will both discover, and therefore that discovery will be your own, and hence, being yours, it will give you vitality. I discover for myself that I depend on something, an audience, say, which will stimulate me. I derive from that audience, from addressing a large group of people, a kind of energy. And therefore I depend on that audience, on those people, whether they agree or disagree. The more they disagree, the more vitality they give me. If they agree, it becomes a very shallow, empty thing. So I discover that I need an audience because it is a very stimulating thing to address people. Now why? Why do I depend? Because in myself I am shallow, in myself I have nothing, in myself I have no source which is always full and rich, vital, moving, living. So I depend. I have discovered the cause. But will the discovery of the cause free me from being dependent? The discovery of the cause is merely intellectual, so obviously it does not free the mind from its dependency. The mere intellectual acceptance of an idea, or the emotional acquiescence in an ideology, cannot free the mind from being dependent on something which will give it stimulation. What frees the mind from dependence is seeing the whole structure and nature of stimulation and dependence, and how that dependence makes the mind stupid, dull, and inactive. Seeing the totality of it alone frees the mind. So I must inquire into what it means to see totally. As long as I am looking at life from a particular point of view, or from a particular experience I have cherished, or from some particular knowledge I have gathered, which is my background, which is the me, I cannot totally.